veil, wipe away tears, remove all sorrow and all fears, for beyond the veil all is right, all is whole. Grant me this sight.
Okay, before I get started, there's a couple things. Number one, you don't need to bring your Strongs again unless you are still confused of how to look things up in it. If you are confused, bring it, or I'll stay later tonight and I'll show you if you brought it. I brought mine if you didn't. The whole purpose for having these tables up, even though I know it's more comfortable for you all, is so that you can spread out that Strong's Concordance. I really want you to learn, how to use it. It brings the whole Bible away, and a lot of many meanings that you would have not understood. Yes. The other thing I want to do is I want everybody to know that David here is bringing those goodies every Monday night. Those breads and stuff, so everybody give him a big hug. Clap your hands now, but give him a big hug after the meeting. And then I never talk about little Patricia here, who stays long after you guys are home in bed, cleaning the place up, doing the dishes, putting away the food that's left over, not much is left over, and getting things, cleaned up and straightened up, and I'm even home. So this has been going on for, 2 years now. So everybody give her a big hug too.
I have help. I have Joe and Carmen and whoever stays, they'll help.
I know, last week it was you and your daughter. But still, it's always you. It's always you. So I'm very appreciative of that, because then I don't have to do it. Also, you all realize that if you have anything that you think I can help you with, you can call me. Do you know that? You don't have to try to work through it all by yourselves. If you want to work through it and you can pray and you're getting answers, I want you to learn how to do that. But, we all need help, okay? We all need, there's times in our life where, the burden gets heavy. Or you're just confused about some stuff. Or you just want to chat. We have 2 seats up here for you. Or you just want to talk and chat, and work things out. So do you get it? Yes. You get it? So this is what you do when you want to talk to me. You call Kay, and this is the number you call. It's 830. Got it? 755-8767. And I'll visit with you. I love it. Okay? Okay. So your mom, you, anybody. Okay, that's what this is all about. All righty? So those are the things that I want to say. All right, I want to finish up the rest that we started talking about last week. And I want to hear that you guys actually looked up your stuff that you were supposed to look up. Before I go on. This is in here. How do we work with it? This is in here. I'm getting my stuff together here, sorry.
Here's me.
Okay, I need to get caught up on here, a little lazy though. All right. First of all, last week, there were some things that I said, why don't we look up a few things here when you get home? How many people actually do that when I say it? I know the Sanfords do, you guys do. You guys do. Oh, good, good. Okay, well then, did anybody look up, okay, did anybody read the end of Isaiah 58 when I said this is about the Sabbath? And the Sabbath means what? Okay, so when it means the rest. So when it says keep holy the Sabbath, it does not mean, no work on Sunday. Doesn't mean go to church on Sunday. It's fine to do whatever you want to do, but that's not what it means. Keep holy the Sabbath means to keep reverent that space where you are in a perpetual state of certainty and confidence, because that's what brings the rest. What else would bring the rest where you're not striving and you're not struggling, except you have found a place of confidence? Yes? The whole book of Hebrews is confidence. It's confidence. And it's why you can be confident and the things you need to understand so that you can find that confidence. Right? Because without being in a state of confidence, if you're in a state of uncertainty and you're not sure and you're wishy-washy, you're not going to be able to see the desired results. Because it comes through your spirit. Do you understand that? We don't have a God in the sky with a magic wand that goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. No, we don't do that. The answers come through your spirit, because this is where God resides, because God is what? What? Life. If you do not know God as life, you're still going to have some kind of an individualized being that you feel like you need to appeal to. You must get the revelation, and not just the words, but the understanding that God is eternal life. It's a life with no beginning and no end. But that means you. Without God as your life, you have no life. You understand you have no life? There is only one source of life. If God was not the life of that tree, the tree would have no life. Do you understand? Everything that we see that's alive is because God as life is flowing through it, animating it. And so why are all these things appearing in creation? To demonstrate something about the nature of God. Everything that exists to demonstrate something of the nature of God. The whole idea is that the nature of God is revealed. The true nature of God is revealed. Right? Okay. I know it's Romans 1:20, but I, for the life of me, can't get started on it. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Right? Romans 1:20. The invisible things of him, the nature of him, from the creation of the world is clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Right? And so in Psalms 19, it's day unto day uttereth knowledge, night unto night uttereth speech. There's no place that knowledge and that speech is not heard. So when people say, well, how do people know God, in Africa and these tribal things, or South America, and they do. It may not look like and act like the same God that you know, and they may have it better than we have it. So the point is, they have understood by the things that are made, by the things that appear, and by the things that are introduced into their life. It's not how you see it, it's how devoted you are to what you see and know. Do you understand? It's the level of devotion.
Yes.
It's not how you see it. It doesn't make one right and one wrong. It's the level of devotion to it. All right? And so last week we talked about the difference in the word. There's two different words that we looked up in the concordance. And one is the logos. And what does that mean? Spoken word, written word. Even the words that are thought in your head are still words. And so we learn by the logos. We learn by the things that are spoken, by the things that are written. We learn the logos, right? But then there is the rhema, and it ends in AH. Anytime that you see AH, it's, and that's the Spirit. Anytime something ends in AH, it's something that has been transmitted by the Spirit to your heart, to your spirit, to you. And those are the words that transform and change. Those are the words that make something appear differently than what was. Okay? Okay, Paul, are you still with us?
Yes.
All right, what else were you guys gonna look up? Who remembers?
Isaiah 52.
Why does the Sabbath rest bring confidence? I know that confidence brings the Sabbath rest, but how does the Sabbath? Isaiah 30 says, "In quietness and confidence shall be their strength." And he said, their strength is to sit still. What does it mean to sit still? It means stop running around, frantic, upset. Focusing on the problem, focusing on what you don't have, or what you think you need, or what you're confused about, or what this, or what that, or what that. You can still sit still and be a nervous wreck, do you understand? So it's not talking about your rear end in a chair. What does it mean to sit still?
Keep your mind still.
Keep your mind still, keep your heart still.
Keep your mind still.
Do what Jonah did. When he was in the middle of his mess, what did he do? He remembered the Lord. Go back in your mind when you're at your very worst and you think, oh my God, I don't know if I can get through this today. And remember the goodness of God. Remember God in your life previous to this. Remember the goodness and the times that this eternal life has shown up and delivered you and brought an answer and fixed things. Do you understand? Because God is immutable. God hasn't gone anywhere. You're just in a state of fret. So remembering those times helps bring you into a state of quietness. And it also gives you a certainty. I've told you guys this for years. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I know I have done it, and it has helped. But I've sat down and wrote out everything that God has ever shown me about himself. Not stuff I've heard people say, because I don't trust what people say. But the rhema, things that God has proven to me by saying something and then healing will follow. That's pretty much how it's always happened in my life. Saying something and a healing follows. And then I know for sure that that's for true, because there was something that happened that proved it. It wasn't just, although I already know when I feel it and hear it. But sit down and write down all the times that God has answered your prayer that you can remember. And the more you write, the more things you'll remember. By the time you get about 3 pages in, you're good to go. You're good to go with whatever's bothering you. But to keep holy the Sabbath is to stay in a state of certainty and confidence that you belong to eternal life. I mean, think about it. Let's just be real frank. Have you ever seen a corpse? There is no life in that corpse. There's nothing there. What makes something there right now, as you look at me and nod your head, what makes something there is the fact that there is life flowing through you. Now, if you're feeling miserable, then you're choking down that life, and you may not know how you're choking it down, But you are choking down that life by thoughts and beliefs, by big empty spaces where you really don't know something about the nature of God, that if you knew it and it was plugged in there, it would revitalize you in a moment. Because that's what that life is full of strength. I am your life and the strength of your days. I am your life and the strength of your days. So if you're not feeling it, then where am I choking it down? How am I choking it down? What thoughts am I thinking, or what do I don't know that I need to know, or what kind of judgment am I holding on to, or, what kind of a bee is in my bonnet, or what's going on here, right? And you just stay with it until you know, because you want that to flow. It's got to flow. Yes? So entering into the rest is a huge thing. Let me say that I have never known a healing to happen until a person has entered into that rest. So I can tell a mile away whether they're going to get healed. A mile away. They may start feeling better. They may have symptoms that start subsiding. They may say, oh boy, I sure feel better than I felt in a long, long time, but that's not healing. A healing is when it's gone. Goodbye, gone forever, and you know that it's gone forever and you'll never see it again. It's not a matter of having to stay on your vitamins for 27 years. It's not a matter of having to do your coffee break in the morning for the next 35 years.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not sorry. It's a healing. It's a healing. Do you see? It's a healing. It's different than just feeling better. So, a lot of times when people are getting healed, they go into a deep, deep, deep sleep. And they'll wake up maybe a whole day later, 24 hours later. I saw that in the hospital a lot. And they would be healed. Wonderful things happen because, you know why? They can't get into a rest when they're awake. So when they're asleep, at least they're not having any kind of things that are blocking that healing from happening. Your body requires the rest to regenerate. It requires rest to regenerate. It's like a battery. It's like plugging a battery in. It requires it. I was thinking the other day about a guy once that came from Houston with leukemia. And I think this was before Melissa, wasn't it? So we're talking a lot of years ago. He was a cop in Houston. And he had done his chemotherapy and all the stuff that they had done. And it had temporarily, again, brought the white count down. The white count should be somewhere between, let's say, 6,000 and 7,000. Give or take 1,000. His was 100,000, so it wasn't good. It was 100,000. Do you know the difference between lymphocytes and leukocytes? Leukocytes are grown-up white blood cells, mature white blood cells, and they're the head of the pack. You got the eosinophils and the basophils, and you got tons of others, monocytes. You got others, but they're the head of the pack. They're the ones you have the most of. Leukocytes are little baby lymphocytes that are still in the bone marrow or in the spleen, waiting to be mature enough to come out and be a lymphocyte. They're babies. Do you get it? Okay. In leukemia, there's a ton of these little baby leukocytes that are coming out. They're useless as far as being of any value or help to anything because they're too immature baby. But they're out there anyway, and they're crowding out lymphocytes, go away, so you get infections. They crowd out the ability to make red blood cells in your bone marrow, so you get anemic, and platelets go down, and everything goes to hell in a handbag, okay? Because these leukocytes are like nuts. Well, what you learn in school is that the leukocytes are your enemy in leukemia. They're the enemy. So we're going to do chemotherapy, and we're going to kill off this enemy. Well, I had this guy. And now his white count's back up to 100,000 again, because it didn't take. It took for a while, but it didn't stay. So, I got a feeling. I always talk to you guys about this feeling. When I know somebody's going to have a healing, I get this feeling. And I got this feeling, but, I never know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, or what. I get this feeling. Mel, do you?
Usually, yes.
It's overwhelming. But I don't say anything because what am I gonna say? You're good feeling, you know? I just wait to see what's gonna happen, you know? But he was on my mind, and it didn't leave my mind, and I knew at some point that God was gonna say something to me. I knew, I just didn't know when, how, or what. Well, one Saturday, and it couldn't have been I'd only seen him like twice. He came every week from Houston. So it was a Saturday, and do you know what the Guidepost magazine is?
Yeah.
I used to get them when my girls were little. I got them so that they would have these little testimonies and things to read that would give them. You should get Guidepost in your home. Write that down. You should get Guidepost magazine. It talks about people who have had healings and miracles and things, all very, very God-orientated. And they're little short stories, so, you know, the boys they don't drown in the long stories. Anyway, so I was looking at a Guidepost and I was thumbing through it. And the first thing I opened up to, and it was just on 2 pages all, and it said, "Our wondrous body." Well, you know, that caught my attention. And it was written by a doctor. And I thought, oh, I'll just read this quick little thing. And he said, I want to talk to you about how our body, every organ, every cell, every system in our body is really a manifestation of the Christ. And I thought, oh, this is going to be very good. You know, because you don't hear too many people that say things like that. No. What?
Special doctors. A lot of doctors.
No, yeah, and this was even way back, 23 years ago or something, you know, where they'd fire me for praying. But, those days are gone, but that's how it used to be. So, it said, let's take a condition called leukemia. Well, the hair on the back of my neck stood out, and I said, this is it. And I knew it, and this was it. And I was just immediately captured by this, because I knew my answer was going to be here. Crazy, but my answer was there. So he said, let's take the life of a little leukocyte. And he said, for a shortcut, we'll call him Luke. Did I ever tell you guys this story?
I've never heard any part of it. That little getting at the stuff.
Okay. And so I said, he said, let's take the one day in the life of a little leukocyte. We'll call him Luke. Well, Luke is in the bone marrow, and he gets that signal from the M cells. The M cells say, bing, 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 problem, bing, 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 problem, right? And then the M cells trigger the T cells, and the T cells say, okay, this is him, that's John. All right, where's the problem? So the T cells are going tearing off, and the M cells tell them right where the problem is, tags where the problem is, and the T cells are racing to where the problem is, right? And the leukocytes are all coming out. Everybody's geared up for this, whatever's going on, whatever the problem is. Our bodies were made to do that, and it's cool. They do it all by themselves. Well, Luke is jealous because he says, I'm sick of being in this. His name is Michelle. He's very impatient, and he's sick of being inside the bone marrow, waiting to be able to do what all the big boys are doing, and he has to just sit there and wait. So he says, I'm out of here. So you know how they come out through you don't even know. This is the coolest thing. The leukocytes, even the lymphocytes, as big as they are, they're in the bone, the bloodstream, and when they get to a problem area, they turn into an amoeba. And like an amoeba, they ooze out from between the cells of the blood vessel.
Wow.
Without causing any disturbance and no bleeding. They amoeba their way out, and now they're in the lymphatics, and now they're working their way down to where the problem is because they want to surround the problem to protect the rest of the body. This is the coolest thing in the world. This body is just the way, it should never fall apart. It can't fall apart. And it has to be that we're blocking it. It has to be there's something we don't know, we don't understand, and we're blocking out the flow. Because, it does everything so perfect, all by itself without us even, we're asleep, for God's sake, and that happens. Right? It's an amazing thing. A real testimony to God, who is life. who is your strength and the length of your days. I am your strength and the length of your days. Okay. Anyway, so this is what he does. He amoebas his way out from the bone marrow, and he works his way into the bloodstream. And then it goes into this, and he's so excited. He's like a little kid at the carnival. And he goes out and he comes up the inferior vena cava, and he's in the right atrium of the heart, down to the right ventricle. And he goes out to the lungs, and then he comes back in the left side and down the left ventricle, out the aorta, and he's cruising around, looking for where the problem is, And finally, he gets all the way down to the big toe on the left foot, and it's gangrenous. Now, I'm going to tell you something about white blood cells. They know they're going to lose their life. As soon as that M cell starts signaling, they know they're going out to fight a battle that will cause them to lose their life, but they willingly do it for the good of the whole. Gee, who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? And they go with great vigor and gusto, because they know they have a job to do, and they were created to do this job, and they're going to do this job no matter what it costs them. And I really like these little white blood cells, right? Well, this little leukocyte, he goes down there, and he's so little that he's all crowded out. Hey, get out of the way. Get out of the way. But he wants to help. He doesn't care that it's going to cut his life short. He doesn't care that he didn't get to be a grown-up and do the job. That he wants to help, and I don't know, the story went on. Well, you know what happened when I read those 2 pages? I fell in love with that little leukocyte. I already like the lymphocytes. I already like them all. But I really fell in love, like I knew this little Luke. So I got up where I was sitting, and I went out and I laid on my bed on my back like an eagle. And I closed my eyes, and I got a revelation. And I realized the guy's name was Bob. Bill. Bob. And I got a revelation that these leukocytes are not our enemies at all. Here's what the problem is. That body is dying. It's so toxic. The life is so shut down in that body that the cells are dying rapidly, and the lymphocytes can't keep up the demand. And so the leukocytes are coming out like gangbusters prematurely to do what is their nature to do. What is going on?
And the phone's ringing, but nobody's answering up there.
Don't they know it's closed? Okay, evidently not. And so they come out to do the job of the lymphocytes, but they are so immature, but they just keep coming out, flooding out, because they're getting the signal of the M. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. And so you know what I did? I laid there with my eyes closed, and I talked to the leukocytes in that man's body. Now, he's in Houston. Well, it would make any difference if he was right there. It's still strange, but I don't care. And I talked to his leukocytes, and I told them, this is what I said. I said, I got this under control. I'm going to detoxify this system. I'm going to tell him about that his relationship with God's got to get cleaned up, that he's got to be kind and gentle and loving and giving, and he's got to be full of wisdom and strength, and he's got to walk with God, and let that river of life flow. I'm going to take care of all the toxins in his body. I'm going to clean it all out. I'm going to tell you, you don't really have to do anything. You can go right back into that bone marrow and wait until you're grown up. And I'm going to bless you, and I love you because I know where your heart is, and I know what you really wanted to do, but you can't. You're not even being successful because you're so little. But I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of this. So you go back. Now, do I have to tell you that he never had leukemia again? Do I have to tell you? The next time I saw him, his white count was down to 7,000. I saw him 2 or 3 times after that, and it was... Because I told them to get into the what? The rest. Go back into the rest. Let God fight the battle. Let God do what must be done, whatever it may be. Let that spirit go before you and fight the battle. Make the crooked way straight. Fix what's wrong. You get into the rest of confidence and certainty. Was that a cool story?
Did you understand it that way when it happened? I mean, I know what you did.
What, Jim?
I don't have a voice today.
Yes, you did. I hear it.
When that happened and you had that vision, and you did that,
Uh-oh, Mary's not here and this thing has never been on. Uh-oh.
Okay,
We're
I'm
just
not
gonna have it
here.
tonight.
I'll take the audio here for Kane.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry,
well, my
Jim.
point is, a lot of times we understand things when they happen, but it's only later that we can give a name to what happened. Does that make sense?
What name did I give it?
I'm not sure.
I don't know what you're asking.
The rest.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah, I knew. I knew as soon as they went back and they relaxed and, you know, I know that when we pull our spirit back, just like the little leukocytes, when they pull all that anxiety and all that I've gotta do, I gotta go, I gotta make this happen, I gotta fix it, oh my God, I'm worried, I can't fix it, but at least I can worry. Gee, at least I can worry. I can get that. But when we pull our spirit back, what happens? That the Spirit of God is allowed to go before us. And it's like a shield. And it opens the way and it says, this is the way, walk ye in it. This is the way I've chosen for you, walk on it. I'm gonna go out there and by the time you get there, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Okay? That's how important the rest is. That's how important it is. Okay. I know when I was a paramedic for all those years, and even in you know, when I first started in the hospitals, there was no such thing as intensive care units, because that's how old I am. And the sick people were all mixed in the floors where all the others were. So what they did was they asked me to be what they called a float. And so every morning, I'd get my marching orders, or every evening, whichever shift I was working. This is where you need to go and you need to stay in that room, because that's the bad room. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. And so, I never knew where I was gonna go, what I was gonna get into, but it was always the one, I mean, you can't drain the floor staff with one really sick person, then nobody else is gonna get taken care of, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how come they finally started having intensive care units, and that's how come I ended up doing that. But usually, you know, things were pretty much in control. But as a paramedic, you know, nothing was in control. You show up, and if you show up at someone's house, everybody's screaming and crying and carrying on hysterical, and their hair's on fire, and they're all, you know, like, oh my God. But the worst are the ones out on the roadside. You got a leg over here and an arm over here, and everybody's screaming and yelling and hysterical. And I'm going to tell you something. Not only can I not function in that, but we can't see the goodness of God right there like we have to see it immediately, until everybody stops that and gets that hysteria under control. Just stop. And I do that. I mean, they don't like me, but I don't really care. I got a job to do. Just stop. And if you can't stop, I'll have an officer remove you, because you've got to stop, because nobody can even hear what we're supposed to be doing, much less. And as soon as things settle down, even though it's still a tragedy, everybody just starts to know what to do. And things start moving, and you start to get things done. But you can't get things done in hysteria. Well, it's the same way when it's an individual situation that you're dealing with. The first thing you do is you sit yourself down and you remember the Lord. And you get into that confidence and that rest. And stop looking at the problem. What happens when you look at the monkeys and dragons? They eat you alive. So you just don't look at them. And that's not ignoring. I'm not never for ignoring a problem, ever. I don't just walk away from it. I won't give it any power. I won't give it my attention. but I will go to the Lord and stay there until I find an answer for it. And that's very active, very active. So I get letters all the time, and people say, you know, I've been ignoring it, but it's getting bigger. I never have told anybody to ignore a problem. But they misunderstand. And it's probably my fault, I'm probably not explaining it well enough. You just don't give power to that, you give power where power belongs. And when you give power where power belongs, you turn around and that got swallowed up. Or you got some direction of what to do to get it swallowed up. Right? That's a big difference. All right, having said all that, now I want to go to Hebrews 8, 9, and 10. It may take 2 weeks for that, but then that'll end our Hebrews journey, I think. Now you understand, you're starting to get to it, that the ultimate, you don't have to open it this right now, I'll tell you when we'll read out of it. Okay? You understand that the ultimate factor in confidence, no you don't, but I'm gonna tell you, that there is an ultimate factor in this whole equation of gaining confidence with God, which is necessary for any healing, any life flow. The ultimate factor is understanding the new covenant. If you do not understand the new covenant, you will go back and you will still think that you're the one that has to fix it. So before we go into all of this, and I really have it outlined pretty neat, so I think maybe I got my act together here. I want somebody to read Jeremiah 31:31, and the first person that has it, raise your hand. Jeremiah 31:31, and 32 and 34. First person that gets it, raise your hand. Okay, for you guys who don't know, okay, then you're gonna read it. Okay, we already have it here, but I still want you to get it. Let me tell you where Jeremiah is. First of all, it's in the Old Testament, so it's in the beginning of the Bible. Not really the beginning, it's in the middle. This is the New Testament. Isaiah 33. Jeremiah 33:33. I mean 31:31. We're going to read it in just a minute. Look up here and stop reading for a second. Look up here. Just listen and write this down. Write it down. The first 5 books of the Old Testament is the foundation of the Hebrew existence. Then you've got all the years that the Hebrews built and lived. And that's the Chronicles, the Kings, the Judges, all those middle ones, when they were in captivity to Babylon, when they were in captivity to the Chaldeans, and anyway. Then you're going to come into Psalms, and Psalms was that wonderful David, who mostly wrote most of them for sure. It was his prayers to God. He had his little harp, and he made up songs, and he made up verses, and he played his harp, and his heart swelled in love for God, which made him who he was. Okay? When Psalms is over, you got Proverbs, presumably written by his son Solomon. Then you got Ecclesiastes. And then you got the Song of Solomon, which is a love story between Christ and you. Okay? Then you got the major prophets. And the major prophets is Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel. Then you got the minor prophets, which are all those little ones at the end there. Tons of them. Malachi, Hosea, Joel, Micah, Zechariah, okay? You guys need to look at these and see them in blocks, It'll help you find it. You know, I mean, some of us have been doing our Bibles for so many years, it's hard for us to remember and realize that some of you guys are clueless of where to even begin. And it's okay. Let's just begin. I don't care. You know, if you're 80 years old, let's just begin. All right, so stand up and read. Read the whole new covenant and follow with him when he reads. Jeremiah 31:31.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Keep going.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man, they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more.
That's it. Now turn to Hebrews. Turn back to Hebrews, chapter 8, verse 10. The first one that gets it, raise your hand. Hebrews 8:10. Okay, stand up and read it. Stand up and read it.
By the which will be sanctified the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. You ready?
Is that 8? No, 8:10.
Okay. 8:10, Hebrews. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. And that he saith, a new covenant he hath made.
No, stop there. Stop. That's another part. Okay, let's see. What was the old covenant that God made? And who did he make it with? He made it with the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt, out of bondage. And here's what he said. He said, I've got to give you a ton of laws because you don't know how to live without some kind of structure and some kind of boundaries and some kind of way to live. You got to learn how to live, much like a child. Much like a child. You know, when you have children, Melissa and I have run into people that, well, anyway, children should not run the household. Right?
Right.
The adults run the children, right?
Right.
And that's the way it should be. That's divine order. Okay? Just anybody out there who might be wondering. And children need structures, and they need rules, and they need things to go by because they have zero wisdom and zero restraint. They're born with no wisdom and no restraint. They've got it all in them because they've got the Spirit of God. But it certainly has not awakened. And it is awakened by the things you teach them and by the restraints that you put on them and the boundaries and borders that you put on them, right?
Right.
Well, that's how God did with the children of Israel. He said, I'm going to give you a bunch of laws, standards of operation, ways that you need to live. Now, I'm going to tell you this. To break these laws will mean death. Just like if you run out, your kid runs out in the middle of the street because you never taught them not to go out in the middle of the street. And here comes a truck. You broke the law, he died. right? You understand? Even if it's not an immediate death, if I break a law of God, and I keep on doing it, I'm shutting down the flow of life, if I know I'm doing it. If I know I'm doing it, right? Okay. So here he comes, all these laws. Let me stop for a minute. It's not that breaking the law hurts you. It's a conscience. It's your conscience knowing that you just offended a law that causes you to shut down the flow. This is very important. This is really important. It is not the breaking of the law that causes a problem. I mean, around here, we don't walk around naked. If we did, we would be breaking a law. In your conscience, you would know that you were doing something that was offensive and it was wrong, right?
Yes.
Okay. But when the missionaries went to Hawaii, they were all naked. They didn't think anything of it.
Not the mission.
No, I guess not. They should have left them alone, by the way, they were doing better. And then down in South America, you go down to these tribes, and, you know, they don't have marriage ceremonies. People go off and they couple up, and this is that one, and this goes with that one, and that goes, they don't know. It's not an offense. It's not an offense unless it's an offense against your conscience. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is critically important. This is critically important. Only if something in your heart, you can justify, you can rationalize, you can tell everybody in the whole wide world how you're right and somebody else is wrong, but the fact that you're having to do that tells you that you're not, that your conscience is roaring inside for some reason. And when the conscience is ignored, you're shutting down the flow of life. And the day you shut the flow of life down, you begin to die. It may take you 30, 40, 50 years, but you still begin to die. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So it wasn't the breaking of the law, it was what it did to your conscience. People have all kinds of different laws and different ways to live in all kinds of different countries. And to them, it's not bad. To us, it would be bad. We're allowing things here in the United States that are horrifying people in the Mideast, and they're horrifying me. And we're allowing it. I mean, horrifying to the point they don't want their children involved with anything having to do from the West. We allow it. We don't allow it without a price because our conscience knows better. I mean, we can scream and yell politically correct, but our conscience knows better. And so we suffer the consequences of that, all right? So all along, God gives all these rules and regulations. Well, it was very, very clear that nobody could keep those rules and regulations going forever. And nobody could do all of them. It would be impossible. There were too many, right? And the Levitical priesthood were the ones that were supposed to oversee it all. This is the covenant that God made with them. If you keep every one of these statutes and laws and judgments that I have given you, every one of them, and you always keep it, look at her giggling. Just shut it off. If you keep every one of these, you'll live forever. If you don't, you'll die. That was it. Well, no pressure. No pressure, guys. No pressure. Okay, so then, you cannot understand the new covenant unless you see God as mercy. So that's where we're going with this. So God told Moses, I want you to build a tabernacle made of tent material because you'll be traveling and you have to fold it all up and travel with it. I want you to build a tabernacle, and in that tabernacle is going to be a journey. First of all, that tabernacle is going to be a place of worship. This is where the Israelites are going to worship. They don't go in there, but they all surround the tabernacle, and all the priesthood does all the things of worship. And on the outside of the tabernacle, they killed the bull, and they shed his blood, and that was the beginning, that was the brazen altar. And then the priest washes his hands at the laver, and then he goes into the inner part. And you all know this because I've taught the tabernacle till I'm blue. But you've got the table of showbread inside, there's 3 pieces of furniture in the inner sanctum there. And only the priesthood can go in. And that showbread is all the truths of God. And unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God. Does it not say this?
Yes.
Unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God. And that is what that is. It's the hidden truths that you don't get out there in the outer court, where people are, they're not looking for these hidden mysteries. As a matter of fact, it scares them to death and they don't really want it, and they're really happy doing all their little ordinances of churchianity. We're doing our churchianity and we're feeling pretty good about it. We're empty, we're dry as a cork leg, but nonetheless, we're doing our churchianity, right? Okay. The more that they partook of the showbread, the greater the candlestick over here, the light would get higher and higher, brighter and brighter and brighter, and that's the light that is God within. Because the more that you partake of the truths of God, and you gobble them up and you love them, the greater the light, right? Mm-hmm. The 3rd piece of furniture was the consecration, and that is the altar of incense. And the incense would burn, it would flow over the veil into the innermost part. And the innermost part was called the Holy of Holies, and only the high priest went in once a year. Now I'm telling you this because this is all part of the covenant. This should be the most liberating thing you ever hear in your life if you get it. So just bear with me, okay? So inside there is the law, the Ark of the Covenant, the law, the 10 Commandments, right?
Yes.
And overshadowing that is the mercy seat, right? And the 2 cherubims that stand there protecting it. Okay. Let's talk about the Ark of the Covenant for just 1 minute. The covenant that he's talking about is the covenant that I'm describing. If you can do it all, and you keep the laws and statutes, you'll live forever. I'll bless you, you'll live forever. But if you don't, then it's going to sear your conscience, and you're going to start shutting down that flow of life, and things are going to start happening, right? Okay. The Ark of the Covenant, the Ark, the word Ark means, guess what? What does the word Ark mean? Rest. R-E-S-T, rest. Right. And it really refers to the Holy Spirit, who is covering this whole scenario, the Spirit that covers this whole scenario. That's why the Israelites, when they lost the Ark of the Covenant to the Philistines, when Saul and Jonathan died that day, and the Philistines took the Ark of the Covenant, they couldn't win a battle, the crops all failed, nothing good happened, because that to them was the presence of God. That was his promise overshadowed by his Spirit. And without this, nothing good can happen to us. So the first thing David did when he became king was marched off and got the Ark of the Covenant back. And then everybody was happy. It was all, it was real to them, symbolic to us. Right? Okay. Once a year, the high priest would take the blood of a lamb, and he would go through that veil, and he would sprinkle the blood on the mercy seat. And what is the mercy seat? What does it look like?
It was invisible.
That's right. There's nothing there. That's right. It's between the 2 cherubim, and there's nothing there. You can't see it. It's space. And you'd sprinkle the blood there at the mercy seat. Now, when he did that, it was called the Day of Atonement. And when he did that, I forgot you were Jewish. Did you ever learn all this as a young boy?
No, all I learned about was sacrificing of blood and all that.
Okay, well, you're about to find out what it means, and it means something to you right now, and it's significant. I wondered how you knew that. Anyway, and when they would do that, all the sins of all the Israelites would be forgiven, completely wiped clean. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. And they all knew it. And they said there was a roar that you could hear, a rejoicing and a roar that, you know, the enemies wouldn't come anywhere near them. They knew, oh my God, this is the Day of Atonement, stay away. Right? Because it says in James, mercy rejoiceth over judgment. Because God would rather have mercy than to judge and condemn. Not that God condemns, we condemn ourselves. I am telling you, there is no God that condemns. God is life. Period. End of story. But again, when our conscience condemns ourselves, and there's a really cool verse that says, and you should look it up when you get home. There's a really cool verse that says, those whose conscience is void of offense, both toward God and man. If you have a conscience void of offense, and you have nobody you're in conflict with, and nobody that you're judging, and nobody that you're hard on, and nobody that is in conflict with you, and everything is in perfect order with you and the whole entire world and everybody in it, you have a conscience void of offense. You have confidence with God, it says. You have confidence with God if you have a conscience void of offense. With God and man. And that's the goal. All right. Remember when Jesus said to the Pharisees, I will have mercy and not a life of religious sacrifice and religious keeping of all your ordinances and your holy days and your this and your that and all the things that you have to do with your religion. I'm so not interested. As a matter of fact, it says it's a stench in my nostrils. What I want is mercy. What I'm looking for is mercy. Now, you all who have heard this before, what does mercy really mean? It does not mean condoning offense. It is not a license to do what you want to do. It doesn't put you on the throne saying, if it feels good, do it. My standard is, if I want to, I will. That's my standard. If I want to, I will. And I have a right to do that. Yeah, well, mark the end of the mail. What does mercy really mean?
To let it go.
That's the second part. What does it mean? It's love that motivates it.
Undeserved forgiveness.
Well, undeserved. What is it? Nothing's deserved. It means to look past the offense and see the eternal part of that person that never changes. That's what mercy means. It means looking past the offense or past the disease and seeing the strength of eternal life that God has made. And knowing that if I see it, I'll call it forth. And if I call it forth, I'll see it. But if I keep seeing the disease and I keep dealing with the disease, well then that's all we're doing for the rest of our life is dealing with disease. If I see the offense and I keep dealing with the offense, have you noticed how it never goes away? You're agreeing in the conflict and you're agreeing with the offense. Have you noticed that a year from now you're still talking about the same stupid things? Right? Because and when Christ shall come, he shall not come judging by the seeing of his eyes, nor the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness will he come to judge. So you don't stay with what appears, or what you hear them say, or how they're behaving, or what they're doing. You don't stay with that. You go beyond it. Right? Mercy covers the law. Mercy covers the law. So mercy's higher than the law. So even if there's an offense against the law, if you choose to look beyond the offense and see that eternal part of that person that never changes, and you see that strength of that person, and the Christ of that person, and you keep calling it forth. You keep calling it forth in your heart. You just keep saying, I see you there, I know you're there, I'm calling you forth. Stand up, be counted, arise, your day has come. Okay, now the second part of mercy is what you two set down there. It is forgiveness. And what does forgiveness mean?
Send away.
To send it away. To send away. The word forgiveness means to send away. To send away. So, you get that so far? Cool. You're gonna find out where it says a conscience void of offense toward both God and man. You come back and tell me next week where you found it, okay? Okay. Let me tell you something else about your conscience being offended. Because you don't know what's right, but you know you're not doing right. You know you're still in conflict and you know that something's not right here. You may not know what right is, but you know you're not right, right?
You're right.
Okay. What does it produce? What the scenario I just said. What does it produce?
Guilt.
Exactly. It produces condemnation and guilt. Even though you may not have been the one that started the conflict, you may not have been the one that caused the problem, but if you still feel yourself in conflict, you have not done yet what you need to do in order to feel peace inside. And so you feel condemnation, you feel guilt, you don't feel right about it. You don't feel right about it. If you don't feel right about it, that's called condemnation. Even though you know that you were not the one that did anything or started anything, still I don't feel right about it. Why? I'm not doing yet. If I was doing what God wanted me to do right here, your condemnation is attracting what? Suffering, misery, not happy,
Right.
no joy. You're attracting all the out there. You're shutting down the flow. Well, does that seem fair? Does that seem fair when you're not the one that caused the problem? Well, you know what? I just don't remember Jesus hanging on that cross saying, you know what, man, this is not fair. This just does not feel fair. Now, I didn't do anything to make them do that. I mean, weren't you the one that had leprosy that I healed? And weren't you the one that I fed? Weren't you the one that I brought your son back to life? And weren't you the one, what are you all up to? No, he didn't. He did exactly why they were in his face, to be healed. Father, forgive them. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He had a conscience void of offense, both toward God and man. Right?
Yes.
Okay. That's the seriousness of this. That's the seriousness of this. We are going to get to the new covenant, by the way. This is kind of all part of it, kind of all part of it.
That was great.
Good. Good. And the greatest gift of all
It's love.
is repentance. The greatest gift of all is the gift of being able to repent. And say, well, okay, this has gone on for so many years with that chick out there, and I have never thought to heal her. I've just walked around, feeling kind of a little bit righteous that I wasn't the one that caused it.
Yeah.
Change your thought.
Yes. And all of a sudden I had a compassion that this woman needed to be healed. No matter how haughty she pretends to be or what, she's got nothing going inside. She needs the flow of that life. And I'm the one that's supposed to do it, or she wouldn't be hanging me here. Not that I'm going to hang with her, but you know what I mean. All right. So as long as there is law, there's going to be condemnation. Ephesians says, and this is going to blow you away, and you'll finally understand it. Ephesians says that the law was what was nailed to the cross.
That's what I say that.
The law, the whole law was nailed to the cross. If there is no law, then you can't be guilty, except you become then a law unto yourself. And that is even stricter, because the only law that you're left with is the law of,
Love.
who said it?
Love.
What'd you say?
Love.
The law of love. Love is the fulfillment of all the law, it says, and all the prophets. And so now you come under a law of love. Now I can say, I feel a compassion for this woman, and I want to see her healed. That's finally the law of love that has finally kicked in. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now I come under a law that far exceeds any of the laws of the five books, the five first books of the Bible, are filled with the laws and the statutes and the ordinances and things. They're all nailed to the cross. I am no longer under any of the law. I'm not under the law. But let me tell you this. If you were under the law of love, if you were functioning under the law of love, would you steal from somebody?
No.
Would you lie about them to someone else and gossip?
No.
Would you repeat offense about somebody?
No.
If you were under the law of love, would you covet what somebody else has?
No.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Would you dishonor your parents, even though I know that honor your father and mother has a much deeper spiritual meaning than people, but nonetheless, would you do that? No. Would you love God with your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength?
Yes.
Would you have false images that you worship? And I don't mean images, I mean the image of money. I mean the image of power. I mean the image of needing to possess something. I mean the image of having something of my own. Do you understand there's a lot of images in our head that become strange gods to us that we worship and that we will not let go of?
Freaks me out.
Wears me out. Where's it, if you start seeing them in yourself, it wears you out. Time to let those go. Right?
Yes.
If you were functioning under the law of love, loving God with your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor, which are the fulfillment of all the laws and commandments, if you're functioning under the law of love, you would not need all those other laws. Now, he wrote this book to the Hebrews that couldn't let go of having to fulfill some degree of righteousness in order for God to love them, take care of them, heal them, and deliver them. Do you understand? And that's what I run into every single day of my life, taking care of sick people. I must have done something wrong. I'm missing something. I'm not doing something. I'm messing up. I'm screwing up here. I don't know what to do. I don't know why this is like this. Do you understand?
Yes.
The only reason you would ask a question like that is because you still feel responsible to fulfill something. I'm telling you, the law is done away with. The law speaks to that part of us that is the mortal. The law is only for the mortal. The spiritual part of you doesn't even need it. So when the law was nailed to the cross, so was that mortal part of you nailed to the cross, which is the only thing that the law can possibly speak to. You understand?
Yes.
So when Jesus said, sacrifice and offering for sin, you have no, this is from Hebrews, sacrifice and offering for sin, you're not interested in, but a body you prepared for me. What is he talking about? Is he talking about the body he wore as Jesus the man? Or is he talking about all of us, which is the body he wears now? Do you understand? Because there is only one begotten Son. It says in Hebrews, the only begotten of the Father. It says it everywhere. One Son. One manifestation of the fullness of God. One. And that's the spirit that motivates, the life that motivates all of us. Or should be motivating us if it was awakened. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's why he can say, I'm gonna pour my spirit out upon you. This is the new covenant. I'm gonna pour a spirit out upon you unlike anything you have ever awakened to in your life. And it's the Spirit of Jesus Christ. It's the Spirit of the fullness of God. It's the Spirit that contains the fullness of God. And it's within you. Of his fullness have we all received. Where's that? John chapter 1. He's the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Not just the chosen few, because there ain't no chosen few. It's the light that lights every man that comes into the world, and of his fullness. Guys, you ought to be running around the room screaming. Of his fullness have we all received. You have received the fullness of Jesus Christ. The Spirit, it says, if the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in you, it will bring to life your mortal body. It will bring life to you, and strength, and vigor. What? To your entire body. Head to toe. Right? Well, just like there's only one sun, there's only one body. And that body is his body now. And that really is liberating. Because one of the first things that come out of my mouth anytime I feel my body being attacked by anything is, my life is not my own. The body isn't mine, the life isn't mine. And so, gee, what do you want me to do about this body of yours that is under this attack? How do you want me to handle this? Now, you don't think that doesn't bring confidence? I don't feel separate. I don't feel responsible. It's not my body. Do you get it? I will pour my spirit out upon you, and I will cause you to know me like nobody has ever known me before. I will cause you to know how I really am, not what religion has said through the years and ages, not this horrible hydra-headed monster that causes people such pain and suffering. I will cause you to know me, who I am and what I am. I will cause you to love me with your whole heart and soul. I will cause everybody to feel this. Everybody on the planet. Everybody that has ever been formed by the breath of God. The Word of God, the Rhema of God. The breath of God that is the creative principle of God. When that breath blows, when that spirit is released, something is created. And it's eternal. And it's perfect. And that's when you guys were formed. I'm going to pour my spirit out upon you. I'm going to awaken this whole thing. And whatever you were under before, I'm not going to, it's not even going to count for anything because it was already nailed to the cross and it was already buried and it's already done away with. I don't remember anything. I'm not like a man that remembers. Do you know? I'm not a man that remembers. I look at right now, the eternal now. Remember we talked about the eternal now, the critical and importance of living in the now, the immediate now. Because in the immediate now is where God is. He's not in the past, and he's not in the future, he's in right now. And right now, I'm looking at this creature formed by the Spirit of God, the body that I have given to my beloved Son. Not under the law. And whose phone is this?
Yours?
Just turn it off.
As she laughs.
Shut up, John, it's not that funny. Okay. Okay, you got that so far?
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to write this law of love, I'm going to write it in your heart. What do you mean I'm going to write it in your heart? Because the Spirit, the only Spirit that is poured out now, is the law of love. It's the Spirit of love. It's the Spirit of the fullness of God. It's gonna be automatic. No wonder the sins and iniquities I remember no more. What are you talking about? I'm not even talking about the you thought you were, you're not. If you're a new creature in Christ, all the old is passed away and all the new is now. And all the new is of God. Where is that found? 2 Corinthians 5:17. Memorize it. Write it down. 2 Corinthians 5:17. This is the new covenant. This is the new promise. Everybody, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. At some point, you know why? Because he lives within the worst of them and the best. And our job is not to spend a lot of effort condemning what's being done that's so horrible. I'm thinking about those people over there in the Mideast now, the horrible stuff going on. Our job is not to waste time condemning. What is our job to do? To awaken the Christ. If you awaken the Christ within, it swallows all that up. You don't need to drop bombs. You know, I'm not saying yes or no, and I'm not saying to do or not to do. I'm not saying waterboard, don't waterboard. I don't even know what it means. I'm not saying all that stuff. You do what you have to do, but you heal. You have to heal. Because that's what Jesus Christ came to do. He came to bring truth and mercy and grace. And grace is what? Is exactly what I'm describing. Everything that needs to be done will be done now by the Spirit that is poured out upon you, because it's the Spirit of the fullness of God. One Son. That's the new covenant. Now, if that doesn't bring you confidence, I'm afraid you probably will never have confidence. Because it's the ultimate. It is the ultimate. You just have to think about it for a while, and you have to grasp it. And every time you start feeling anxious, know this. This is what you're doing. You're going back into the old covenant where you feel responsible to pull something off, and you don't know what you're doing. And you don't know what to do or how to do it, and you're a wreck. You spend time healing the situation that's making you a wreck, and you are fulfilling the will of God. So we'll finish this up next week.
I felt alone and walked with sadness so severe. Didn't know what to do. Choked back desperate tears. Longed for hope and healing from seeming lack and fear. And as I walked, I saw a stream. I felt it draw me near. Everything will live where the river flows. Everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, from my ankles to my knees, washed away my sadness. I felt it loving me. Could it be, I questioned, but it couldn't be denied. Something good was happening, I knew it deep inside. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. The water flowed faster and wider, too deep to be crossed. I felt myself engulfed and lovingly was tossed by waves of joy and peace. I tumbled and I spun and saw the river carried me as though we both were one. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. It filled me with such joy, I thought I could take no more. Then it loved me yet again and rested me on the shore. Fear was gone and in its place a calm and peaceful glow, a gift to me of the loving embrace of the mighty river's flow.